The halls of Arkham Asylum echo with the screams of the broken and the desperate. Yet for Dr. Harleen Quinzel, they were merely a stage. A brilliant mind, a gifted gymnast, Harleen possessed an intellect that soared, but a heart that was perpetually empty. She carried the invisible scars of a childhood where success was never enough, where a gold medal earned only the question, why wasn't it a perfect score? This chronic yearning for validation fueled her savior complex, a desperate need to fix the unfixable, to heal the most damaged soul on earth, and finally earn the perfect score of acceptance. Her target, the Joker. When Harleen Quinzel first met the clown prince of crime, she saw not a monster, but a riddle, a beautiful, tragic mess only she was smart enough to solve. She believed her empathy, her training, her pure, unadulterated intelligence was the key to unlocking the truth behind his madness. She felt a connection, a perverse kinship with a man who, like her, had been rejected by the world. She saw past the paint and the violence, right into the wounded child she imagined existed beneath. The sessions were intense, not therapeutic, but theatrical. The Joker was a master manipulator, a conductor playing the symphony of her deepest insecurities. He would weave elaborate, tearful tales of childhood abuse and betrayal, stories meticulously crafted to mirror Harleen's own hidden wounds. He didn't just tell her his life story, he analyzed her reaction to it, slowly dismantling her professional barriers. He would lean in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, saying, "You see, Harleen, they hate me because I showed them the truth, and they hate you because you're the only one who dares to look." He was giving her the one thing her parents never did, absolute, undivided attention, even if it was poisoned. He made her feel special, unique, the chosen one. This intoxicating mixture of intellectual challenge and emotional love bombing was the exact formula needed to shatter her psyche. She began to violate every ethical code, bringing him small, forbidden gifts, a deck of cards, a single, perfect rose. She was no longer a doctor treating a patient. She was a supplicant at the altar of chaos. The warning came, a muted murmur from a concerned colleague. "You're getting too close, Harleen. He's not a project. He's a black hole." But Harleen, blinded by her own desperate need to be the hero, dismissed the caution. She saw the colleague's fear not as concern, but as mediocrity, as a failure to understand the profound connection she shared with her pudding. She was convinced that the world, in its fear, was trying to steal her perfection, her destiny. She was ready to save him. She was ready to fall. The transformation of Dr. Harleen Quinzel was less of a sudden break and more of a meticulously engineered cascade. The Joker did not force her to become Harley Quinn. He merely presented her with the final, irresistible proposition, ensuring she was psychologically primed to accept it as an act of love. He was an architect of the soul, and Harleen was his most prized building material. Their sessions escalated into a theater of psychological warfare. One evening, after spinning a particularly dark and moving narrative of being abandoned in an alley, Joker reached out and touched Harleen's hand. It was a fleeting, tender gesture, a sliver of warmth that instantly dissolved years of professional detachment. Then, in the next breath, he would launch into a screaming tirade about the corrupt system, slamming his fist inches from her face, shattering her fragile sense of security. The ensuing terror was immediately followed by a comforting whisper. "I only shout because I care, Harleen. I'm teaching you how the world really works." This relentless cycle of abuse and affection, the essence of a Stockholm Syndrome relationship, became her new norm. Her appearance began to betray her internal collapse. She adopted brighter clothing, sharper makeup, an outward scream against the beige, sterile formality of Arkham. Her once disciplined hair was now looser, wilder. These were not the choices of a professional. They were the desperate signals of a woman shedding her old, unloved self. The decisive moment arrived on a cold Arkham night. The Joker had orchestrated a brutal beatdown, allegedly by rogue guards, ensuring he was left a bloody, weeping mess in his cell. He called out her name, his voice thin, broken. "They hurt me, Harleen. They don't understand my pain. Only you." This was the final critical step in his manipulation, making her the indispensable savior. Driven by a blinding mix of guilt, fear, and a terrifying sense of obligation, Harleen Quinzel rushed to him, dressed in a stolen nurse's uniform and carrying a weapon. She was no longer trying to heal him. She was trying to save the vulnerable child she had constructed in her mind. She broke him out of his cell, believing this act of defiance was the ultimate expression of their love. They sped through the dark streets of Gotham in a stolen car, the city lights blurring. The Joker laughed, a deep, resonant sound of pure triumph. He was not laughing at the city, he was laughing at her. He pulled the car over to the infamous chemical plant, the place where he himself had been baptized into madness. He didn't ask her to follow, he told her, "I want to give you a gift, Harleen, the gift of absolute freedom." Standing at the edge of the churning vat of chemicals, he issued the final, irreversible command, a terrifying invitation to shed her identity, her sanity, her humanity. He was waiting for the punchline. The riot had been quelled, the sirens receding to a mournful sigh. Harley Quinn, clad in torn leather and a chipped smile, was shackled and placed back into a steel cage, not at Arkham, but in a high-security black site. She did not weep for her freedom or mourn the chaos she had caused. Her distress was focused entirely on a small, insignificant device, the burner phone. She paced the cell, her movements agitated, her gaze flicking nervously toward the door. She demanded a lawyer, then immediately withdrew the request, only to substitute it with a plea for one phone call.
Harleen Quinzel,
Not to a doctor, not to a family member,
stemming
but to
directly
Putin.
from unresolved.
The need for his validation, his chaotic attention, was a physical hunger. She had orchestrated mayhem, yet she remained utterly and tragically dependent. When a court-appointed psychologist finally entered, Harley did not rage. She sat down, crossed her legs, and began to speak with the chilling, detached vocabulary of Dr. Harleen Quinzel. She analyzed her own motives, her defense mechanisms, her transference of familial desire onto the Joker. She could diagnose her own sickness with perfect clinical accuracy, yet she was utterly incapable of initiating her own cure. The original genius was trapped inside the madness, a critical observer of her own self-destruction. This was the core tragedy of Harley Quinn. She was a brilliant, self-aware victim who had chosen to become a perpetrator in order to maintain her illusion of love. She executed crimes, not for profit or power, but to see the flicker of recognition, the smallest sign of affection, in the Joker's cruel, vacant eyes. The Joker had given her the ultimate role, his muse, his accomplice, his personal punching bag, and she accepted it as the highest form of love she had ever known. Her freedom, when it came, was meaningless. She was simply a prisoner of her own heart, forever orbiting the toxic star that had incinerated her. The chaos she reveled in was merely the soundtrack to her deep-seated fear of being alone, of being unloved, of being the average, boring failure her parents had always hinted at. The Harley persona was the perfect disguise for the shattered spirit of Harleen Quinzel. As she stepped out onto the rainy street, her eyes immediately scanned the crowd. Not for police, but for him. She was ready for the next crime, the next argument, the next beating, the next whisper of, "Harley, my darling." She was a victim who chose her abuser, a brilliant mind who chose her cage, a queen who chose her clown. Harley Quinn's journey forces us to confront a terrifying truth about human nature and abuse. When a person is so desperate for love, can they distinguish between adoration and annihilation? Is Harley Quinn merely a villain, or the eternal, heartbreaking symbol of a brilliant mind broken by the human need to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved at any cost?